So I've been feeling a little writer's blocky, creative blocky. I guess I'm not writing, but art blocky. Like a little bit. I feel like I'm not as creative as I necessarily could be. So I decided to create this book too. And hopefully it will give me some inspiration and keep me feeling creatively fresh, I guess you could say. So I haven't opened it yet. I haven't even looked at it. I have watched Moriah Elizabeth do some of the prompts, but I thought it would be better if I tried to avoid her create this book 2 videos. I've watched all the first create this book videos, but I've been trying to avoid these ones so that I could do things that are unique to me and not be influenced by her ideas. But the first thing we have to do, of course, is to create the cover, I guess. So I guess I'm gonna do that. So for the front cover, I decided to use these two 5M Uni Posca markers. I have these two colors, aqua green and coral pink, since I really like that color combination, even though ironically orange is my favorite color. So yeah, I figured I'd start with this. I decided to do a stylized sort of fan shape centered around the credit under the giant title. And let me tell you, I hated going around the words and filling in the letters in the black blob at the top. It was a huge pain to avoid the black print on the book, I found out pretty quickly. Once that was done, I grabbed my Moriah acrylic paint, the same paint I used for the cover of my sketchbook a few months ago, and made these sort of colored swirls, I guess is the best way to describe them. Placing them in rainbow order, of course. I'd never want to disgrace Moriah Elizabeth. Then I went in with a black Uni Posca marker to redefine the black blob around the title of the book, and added a white outline where the black one had been, along with a white drop shadow, and white lines separating each aqua and coral section where they met. I also used metallic gold and silver gel pens and added details in the swirls, and recolored the letters. I hated how I had gone around the words by Moriah Elizabeth and you so much that I actually went back and colored over them with the Posca pens, and then rewrote the words on top again so the background was one nice solid color. It looks way better this way, it was just super tedious. I carried the colored fields onto the spine of the book, also rewriting the words in black Posca pen as well as metallic gel pen on top. After that, it was onto the back, and, well, let me tell you, one look at the back cover and I knew I would lose my mind if I colored over all the text with my Posca pens and had to rewrite everything afterwards. However, luckily I have aqua and coral pink colored Sharpies that are almost the same color as the Posca pens, so I grabbed those and carried the color onto the back of the book. However, I also knew I wasn't going to be able to make a neat fan shape like on the front, so I decided to go with these sort of paint splatter shapes, abstract blobs really. and made sure they connected the same places around the edges where the color fields from the front did. I mean, usually you're the most careful about the front and you care less about what the back of something looks like and if it's a bit messy, right? I added white lines to define the paint blob a bit more with a white gel pen, as well as adding some shines and highlights on what is supposed to look like still wet, running paint. I also used my metallic gel pens on the magnifying glass. Oh yes, and to copy the style of the spine, I colored the edges of the pages of the book using these two Crayola Super Tip markers, also in that pink and aqua. I am suddenly realizing that I have way too many different kinds of art supplies in these two colors. Once that was done, I resized and printed out my little avatar, the one I use on my thumbnails for speed paint videos, and stuck it on the front with some double-sided tape, since this book is mostly going to consist of speed paints, before I use the same double-sided tape to apply these green and pink nail foils to the front over the black paint on the paintbrush. I really wanted something sparkly on the cover, and as we earlier discussed, I have way too many things in these two colors, so might as well use them if I have them. After touching up the edges of the paint blob with my black Posca pen, it was ready for the protective top coat. I wanted to use packaging tape, but the seams down the front of Moriah Elizabeth's book drove me a little bit too crazy. So instead I bought these clear sticker sheets that you're supposed to use to print stickers on an inkjet printer. They're almost exactly the same size as the cover and spine of the book combined, so if you are patient and precise, you really should be able to put one around the entire book in a continuous piece to seal it. However, I am nowhere near that patient or careful, so I used two pieces, overlapping them on the spine where the seam wouldn't be so noticeable. And then the cover was done, so it was time to go inside the book and see what there was to see. First was to fill in your name using an aqua and pink at Uspica glitter pens. I wrote AceLayer, of course. Then I came across this page that said fill this empty space, so I took these aqua and coral colored gel pens I have. Seriously, I think I might have a problem. And added some random doodles there, before moving on to the Create a Fresh Start page. After filling in the date I'm starting this, which was more than 2 weeks ago, yikes, sorry. This video actually was supposed to be uploaded in June. Anyway, after I filled in the date field and my goals, I moved on to the Fresh Start part of the prompt. And I had no idea what to draw, so it took way too long to eventually decide to do a sunrise. That's a new start sort of thing, right? Sunrise, dawn, new day. Listen, I said in the beginning I wasn't feeling very creative, so don't judge me too harshly. At least not for the idea. You can definitely judge me for the next part though, because for some reason, I thought it would be a great idea to watercolor directly in the book on these pages, even though I know perfectly well they're way too flimsy to handle water. So here you can watch me struggle like an idiot, before eventually I just stop and let it dry because, well, it's terrible, and if I went too much longer, the pages probably would have just disintegrated. As it was, they started sticking together a bit, and I had to keep them separate from the other pages until they were completely dry. I ended up using what I did as a sort of underpainting though, so it wasn't a complete waste. And I came back once it was dry to add a colored pencil on top, which looks a million times better. Oh, wait, here, let's take a pencil sharpening break. So satisfying. Okay, and back to the sunrise. I took my white uni chalk marker, one of my top picks in my white stuff comparison part 1, and added some stars along with some clouds and a few indications of some happy little birds, because apparently now we're Bob Ross. I mean, to be fair, this is kind of like a landscape thing, so... Anyway, after that I decided the colored pencil over top of the lettering had made it dull and a little hard to read. So I took a black uni Posca and went over the prompt letters so they were more legible. Finally, once everything is dry, I added a thin coat of matte Mod Podge so that the colored pencil wouldn't smudge before I deemed the page done. Now I was going to stop here, but I decided I wanted to do one more page. But I had no idea which one to do. There are like 100 prompts in this book. So I went to Google to seek the assistance of, what else, a random number generator. As always, since we all know I can't make my own decisions. I put in from pages 1 to 199, since that's the last page in the book before the actual last page that you're supposed to fill out at the very end, once you're done with the book. And Google spit out 157. So, okay, sure, no problem. I opened up to the appropriate pages, and the prompt was create peace. Make this page as peaceful as possible. Oh boy. Welp. This is going to be interesting. I had literally no idea what to do for this. Eventually, I settled on using acrylic paint, except this time I wasn't going to be a doofus and paint directly in the book. I instead grabbed a sheet of 8.5 by 11 28-pound computer paper, cut it in half short ways, and taped it down on my desk so the amount of curling would be reduced. Then I whipped out my Montmartre acrylic paints once again, and went a little crazy, painting a moon and a gradiented sky and some clouds. I actually think it looked better before the clouds, but there was no undo button, so we just continued on. Shush, don't worry about it. And once I decided that I didn't want to ruin the background anymore, I painted on a black silhouette for the foreground. Now, I'll admit it probably was stupid of me to just go in without a sketch, but I did try to sketch, you might have noticed. But since there was hard lead in my pencil, it didn't leave enough of a mark for it to be visible on top of the dry paint. So, rather than find something with softer lead, or, a colored pencil or something, which I just used so they must have been on my desk at the time, I just said, oh well, and started painting the silhouette of a girl on a swing in black acrylic paint. I used to love swinging. It made me feel like I could fly. I haven't done it in a long time, but I feel like it would be really peaceful, floating through the breeze, alone on a cool night like this. So, yeah, that's where the idea for this picture came from, at least. The big tree branch has a couple of birds on it. And then I used a dotting tool to add some white flower blossoms and buds. Before I also decided to do a bunch of white blossoms scattered around too, as if they were caught up by the wind and floating around. It's probably my weeaboo showing, since I love anime and dramatic cherry blossoms are definitely a trope that is absolutely ingrained into my subconscious by this point, I'm pretty sure. Another coat of matte Mod Podge at the very end once everything was dry, and when I took off the masking tape that I'd been using to keep the paper from curling too badly, I went back with similar colors to the background and filled in those spaces so they weren't so noticeable. Once everything was totally dry, I used some double-sided tape to stick the pages where they belonged, cutting out the section of the left-hand page so you could still read the prompt, as well as trimming a little bit of the paper that stuck out past the edges of the pages in the book so that I could keep the book looking somewhat neat. And that's all for this episode. The cover, the fresh start page, and one prompt page create peace. Let me know if there are any pages in particular you'd like to see me do in this Create This Book 2 series. I plan on doing all of them, but if there is one you'd like to see sooner rather than later, let me know and I'll see if I can arrange that. And if you're watching this video before July 15th, 2020, please don't forget to visit my huge Copic giveaway, where you can win one of 12 prize packages, each one including a set of Copic sketch markers, a crescent render no bleed drawing pad, and a bunch of other fun goodies. Please like this video, subscribe and ring the bell for more creative content, and until next time, I'll see y'all later. Bye!